Let's now move on to New Hampshire, where you're seeing a surge. A recent poll has you at 26%, opposed to President Biden's 58%. What are you attributing that surge to?
Old-fashioned campaigning. When you show up, you walk through the snow, you answer the questions, you do the tough stuff, you show up, you debate, you shake hands, you listen to people. It's amazing what happens. And that's why New Hampshire is so important. That's why so many people here are so upset about what the Democratic Party has tried to do, which is to take away a 103-year practice of democracy that they take very seriously. And I can feel that in the street. What do I attribute it to? Two things: a massive appetite for change, a little bit of surprise that here's a candidate that they didn't know the name of as recently as 9 weeks ago, who's competent and able and prepared and energetic, represents the next generation. And there's a growing recognition that Joe Biden, despite being a good man, is not in a position to win the election and move our country into the future at his stage of life. Those are just the truths. And with each passing day, each passing week, those numbers continue to climb. I'll stay in this race as I continue to introduce myself to people. And I think on the 23rd of January, what you're going to see, Brittany, is a very weak incumbent candidate who has had to use a write-in initiative, a super PAC to promote that, members of his cabinet coming up to New Hampshire to make the case for him. It's kind of pathetic. And a sitting incumbent featured here in New Hampshire. The last two of them was Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Clinton generated 84% of the vote in that primary for his reelection. Obama generated 81%. So think about those numbers on the 23rd and see where Joe Biden falls. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the 50% range. If it is, that is a horrifying and very voter-proven example of the weakness of his candidacy. And I just think it's in his best interest and the country's to step out of the race and encourage a competition. I'm not trying to clear the space for me alone. I'm saying we should have a multi-candidate competition. It's not too late. And if we don't do that, the writing is on the wall and it will be worse than 2016. The difference is this time we knew how to prevent it.
The DNC reportedly called the New Hampshire primary meaningless. What's your response to that?
Pathetic. I hope that letter and its response, which is the cease and desist letter that the state of New Hampshire had to send to the Democratic Party, again, asking them to cease and desist from the unlawful suppression of voters, those letters should be brought to the Library of Congress, the National Archives, put under glass as an example of how the parties themselves can actually undermine the very practices of democracy that ostensibly they stand to represent. I think it's appalling. People here in New Hampshire cannot believe that the Democratic Party would have the audacity to say that this is not an election, it is meaningless, and your votes don't count. What is more anti-democratic? What is more anti-democratic than telling people that it doesn't matter? I've never seen such a thing. And I think it is a symptom of a very significant disease of rot in both parties, but sadly in the one that I represent. And I had no idea. And I've enabled it, I've invested in it, I've represented it, and I'm proud of the Democratic Party. But the absence of transparency and the erosion of integrity by people who know better, yes, is a distinct risk to democracy. And that's the truth. And that's why I think New Hampshire will demonstrate that on January 23rd.
You're saying you're proud of the Democratic Party, but you're also using terms like they're delusional right now. They're contributing to the rot of democracy. Are you losing faith at all in the Democratic Party during this process?
Well, I've lost faith in the leadership of the Democratic Party, absolutely. Not Democratic voters, not the recent history of the Democratic Party. I'm a Hubert Humphrey Democrat, the man who had the audacity to go to Philadelphia in 1948 as a young man and implore the Democratic Party get out of the shadow of states' rights and into the bright sunshine of human rights. The Hubert Humphrey that said the moral test of government is how it treats those in the dawn of life, the dusk of life, and the shadows of life. That's the Democratic Party I love. It's not too late to recapture those principles. We are absolutely wayward. We are absolutely lacking leadership. The president is the de facto leader of the Democratic Party. And the truth is, I think the country is losing faith in his leadership as our president. And I can tell you, as a Democrat in Congress, there has been no leadership from this president as a Democrat. And I think it's time for change. We're a big tent. We have a lot of ideas, a lot of backgrounds, a lot of geographies, a lot of policy perspectives. That's a beautiful thing, but that requires really bold leadership. I have great faith in Hakeem Jeffries, by the way. But I am losing faith in people that have been doing this for way too long, who have perverse incentives and are far more focused on the preservation of tradition than progress. And by definition, we are progressives that are literally acting in an antithetical manner. So I'm concerned. And the other issue is this, Brittany. I'm a member of Congress. I don't even know who these people are. And Americans do not know who these people are. Who are these people? The party, right? There are a handful of people that are literally encapsulating the president, making the decisions, and doing what you do in politics and not paying attention to the principles of a country that is screaming awfully loudly that we will beat you because you're not listening to us. And that's part of the problem. Lack of transparency. Who are these people? The process is not transparent. The process is corrupt. And the sad truth is I did not anticipate this would happen, but I have to expose it. And it's not what I wanted to do, but it is my mission and my responsibility.
Well, let's look forward to next week then, to the New Hampshire primary. What does a victory in New Hampshire look like for you?
Well, victory is relative. I mean, I don't see an outcome that will not the weakness of President Biden and the new emerging strength of my campaign. And more than that, where Democratic voters are, which is really upset with the status quo. So look, if I get into the 20-some% range, high 20s, that would be outstanding. Anything above that would be wonderful. But, I like to underpromise and overdeliver. I do know one thing, the president is weak, and I know the numbers will show that. And victory is relative. I'm going to continue either way. Most importantly, I think it will be the introduction of me and my campaign to the country. Then we head to other states, and mark my words, there are other states that feel the same way as New Hampshire, and we're going to demonstrate that. And if the president is up to it, he should campaign, he should earn it, he should debate, and do what you do if you really do care about democracy.
So regardless of the numbers, you're onward after New Hampshire. So what does that strategy look like as we head into Super Tuesday, as we head to the rest of the primary season?
Well, there are 3 states that really, I think, will set the tone for this whole campaign: New Hampshire, Michigan, and South Carolina. Those are the ones. I'm not on the Nevada ballot because I entered the race after that deadline passed. But I think most would agree those 3 states will be the determinant of where this race goes. And if the president shows great weakness, again, Bill Clinton, 84%, Barack Obama, 81%. If President Biden is in the 60s, the 50s, maybe even lower, I mean, think about what that means. Michigan, I do not think he will perform well. South Carolina, we'll see. I think it might be a surprise there too. That's exactly how this system should work. The sad thing is it's not a level playing field. And I guarantee you, if it was, if the Democratic Party actually practiced what it preaches, we would be in a very different place now. And I just have to work harder. The good news is I'm up to the task and can't wait to demonstrate that over time. The good news is we have many months, and I'll be sticking around.